The two-arm forehand strike can be used in many different games: cricket, tennis, softball and baseball, and even hockey. To begin a class teaching the two-arm forehand strike, we use a warm-up game. For the purpose of the video, the boundaries are much smaller than they really would be, but the idea is to keep the kids inside, not outside of the boundary lines. We begin by giving the students a locomotive action. For this example, we used hopping. The idea is just to warm up the muscles so no one gets injured. We then ask the students to find a pair who has the opposite eye colour to them, or for example, has an opposite hair colour to them. It's a fun and interactive and non-biased way to get the students into pairs. We then give another locomotive action, this time warming up the arms to avoid injury. Now that the students have an idea of the game, we ask them to group with a person of the opposite sex. Although the students are unaware, this is actually how we made groups for the next activity. Once again, we give them another locomotive action, this time pretending to be aeroplanes, which continues to warm up the arms for the two-arm forehand strike. We now ask that the pair they found the first time join with another pair to make a group of 4. The game continues until the class is split evenly into 4 groups. We then hand out a coloured tag to each of the groups, just so they can identify the people that they are in a group with. This assists in the next activity and further in the game we play later on. The teacher stands at the front of the class and the students inside the boundary lines. Before demonstrating their technique, the teacher asks the students if anyone knows the kind of sports the technique is used in. For example, this student answered baseball, cricket, tennis, and hockey. The teacher then provides the feedback, encouraging the student and also giving them other possible sports that it could be used in. In the demonstration, the teacher asks the students to spread out into their own space for safety precautions. The teacher, using understandable linguistic or something fun like pointing to the trees or pointing to the goalposts, something the students understand, gets them to stand side on. Using the surrounding environment, it makes it easier for the child to remember where to start. The teacher then demonstrates the entire movement. The teacher then runs through the entire movement with the class, step by step until they all understand, ensuring they are standing side on, the bat behind their shoulder, and following through. This process is continued until every student grasps the concept. This is also an extremely crucial time for the teacher to be making corrections when they notice the student struggling. The 3 main things: standing on your side, bat behind your ear, and following through. In this scenario, the student doesn't follow through, and the teacher provides the correction to make sure they understand. To apply the skill, we get each team to grab a cone of the colour of their tag and line up in a straight line, each team lining up behind their cone. For this activity, we use a basic T-ball tee to practice the motion hitting a ball off the tee. We only use foam bats instead of metal ones, because the age group of between Year 3 and Year 6 still wouldn't be safe enough to be using metal bats. We get the students to practice with a small light plastic ball. The teacher has to ensure they stand behind the students and signal when it is okay for them to all swing. This also allows the teacher to make further corrections when they notice the students not making contact with the ball, such as telling them to keep their eye on the ball. Constantly analysing the way that the student is swinging allows the teacher to make adjustments, such as adjusting their grip or the angle in which they're swinging at the ball. These corrections of common error and constant feedback allow the student to accomplish the fundamental movement skill. The teacher tells all the students to stop, put their bats on the ground before going to collect their balls to make sure nobody gets hit in the process. The students are then never standing still and also putting the ball on the tee for the next person, encouraging teamwork and manners between students. We chose to play a game of T-ball amongst the students, using a variety of shapes and sized and weighted balls. We set up the bases in the shape of a diamond, like your average T-ball game. The fielders spread out amongst inside and outside the diamond, while the batters line up behind the batter at the tee. The batter gets 3 shots. They get to choose between any of the balls, 3 different sizes or weights. This allows equity between the students, for some who might need a bigger and lighter ball for beginners, or for more advanced batters to pick the smaller, heavier balls that go a further distance. It allows the students to make the game easy for themselves and more enjoyable, and therefore suited to everyone, instead of students feeling left out or feeling like they aren't capable of playing the game. After they've hit their 3rd and final ball, the student must run the bases, while the fielders try and collect all 3 balls and put them back at the tee before the batter makes a home run. When all 3 balls are back at the tee, the student yells stop, and the batter stops on the closest base that they are at. No one gets out in this game. The same process occurs with the second team, who choose their 3 sized balls, hit them into the field, and then run the bases. It is also a creative idea to implement an activity for the batters who are standing around waiting for their turn, whether it be cheering for extra points or doing star jumps to keep them active instead of standing still. We created a rule for this version of T-ball where any amount of players can be standing on a base at one time to ensure nobody gets out or is told to go back a step. This means students either get an amount of bases or can all run through to get a home run at one time, instead of students needing to run one by one. For the purpose of this game, you can either join 2 of the groups together, like the green and yellows, or play 2 separate games, with the 4 groups you created at the start. To end the lesson plan, we just run through a cool down. The teacher asks the students to spread out into their own space again, and runs through some stretches for their arms after working them out all day doing the 2-arm forehand strike. This cool down doesn't only cool down the muscles, but also calms down the students before heading back into the classroom.